And again, the first thing that people are going to ask, and of course address towards me again, is, are you saying that Nicola Bulley was possibly murdered or tossed into the River Wyre, or in the River Wyre? And again, folks, you need to understand and recognize, no, that is not what I am saying on this channel. What I am saying, okay, that can be confirmed now for a fact, all right, is Nicola Bulley had clearly something happen that does not match up with the timeline of events of her tripping and falling on her harness, so she fell into the river. There are a few key pieces of evidence that leads me to believe this is impossible for this to have happened. Number one, any dog walkers and people that I know who go out with their dog, it really doesn't matter who, always carry their phone, okay? And in that case, it would be their cell phone. Nicola Bulley should have had her cell phone on her pretty much the entire time, regardless of where she was walking to. If she knew that it was kind of a dangerous area, she would have made a phone call on that phone. Therefore, making it clear, something in the cell phone records would already make it, pretty much 100% clear that there was something going on, or maybe there was something going on with her mental state, whatever. But the fact is, the call logs do not show any calls made from that phone at the time that she walks supposedly up to the River Wyre. So that's the number one detail that people always miss, that makes me conclude it was not, definitely was not just Nicola accidentally tripping and falling in the river. The number two detail is where the phone was actually left. This is another detail everyone has missed the whole time. The phone was not left in the area where you'd expect it. It was actually left on the bench. And oddly, very oddly actually, there's no registry that's been recorded of whom was called. Like the very last calls, from what I've gathered so far, were made the day before this whole issue occurs, okay? And so that's one of the number one things I would love to check. I would love to finally see a history of what calls were made, who were they made to, because somebody has that call history, okay? The number three detail that I'm pointing out that makes this extremely unlikely, that she just tripped and fell in the river, but that something did in fact happen near the river, okay, is the fact there is absolutely no alcoholic odor or even residue for some reason in the area where she was said to be walking up to the River Wyre. There's not even just a can or something with her fingerprints on it in the trash can, near the bench, which would at least start to make it more of a plausible idea that that may have happened. There's not even just like a can or kind of bottle with her actual physical fingerprints on them, left outside the house or something to that effect. There's nothing, okay? There's no visible odor. By testing it with the device, if they even do that, because sometimes they do not do that, okay? But by testing it with the device, there's no residue of alcohol in that specific area. So again, folks, all I'm pointing out, okay, and along with that, there are houses, okay, at the caravan park, which I've been checking on very closely, that have the address entirely scratched out. Like nobody wanted anybody to understand who was living there. I just find that quite suspicious, to be honest, okay? So all I'm pointing out here, again, I'm not saying anything happened with Nicola Bulley. What I am saying for a fact is what did not happen, clearly, is her just going up to the river and tripping and falling into the river, okay? The evidence that has been left behind is so spotty. It does not show anything that would be conclusive to believe the theory that she tripped and fell in the river. And in this video, what I'm pointing out is I think it's plausible, possibly a little more likely, that something else happened. I do not know exactly what happened at this time, but based upon some of the strange people who kind of live in the caravan park, based upon the fact that there was no actual even residue of drugs or anything left in the actual area, nor left in the actual park, okay? I cannot at all just buy the idea that she tripped. Something happened there. Perhaps something nefarious, okay? But something happened there that goes possibly beyond her just being on the leash with her dog and tripping and falling into the river. And that is all that is important at this time. Thank you. More to come. It is, again, I've been going down this drag strip for a while now. This is directly by the River Wyre, okay? And there are some unsettling things that I immediately came in contact with that I cannot explain. I cannot rule out them just being completely nonchalant, inconspicuous things, but I cannot rule out them also being involved in nefarious actions either. And the key here is these are all here directly by the caravan park. These housing units, I've started to kind of explain that a little more too, okay? These housing units have no visible addresses. Like the addresses have been deliberately scratched out. The scaffolding that is around these addresses, again, you can see there, it's like the numbers for certain parts of the addresses have been deliberately scratched out. Could just be worn off paint. Could be something much more serious, right? But what I've pointed out, you know, since the beginning is this type of thing is unsettling, should be unsettling, right? There's something here about the fact that this caravan club is very, very ancient. You know, it's very old. It's not something that just came up here within the last few years, because it could be written off as just, you know, another interesting place if this caravan park truly existed only within the last few years. But folks, this is not a new area. In this caravan park, as you're going to see here, okay, has been here for well over 100 years or so. And the people who are here in this caravan park have been here most certainly for well over a century now. And there are some interesting issues around that. It's an interesting area. There are a lot of interesting people who live directly on this caravan park lot. Some who are perhaps more well-meaning than others, right? There are people here who, the best word I would choose to describe them is a little bit unfriendly, okay? A little bit unusual, a little bit uncharacteristic of what you encounter most of the time in the United Kingdom. And again, you know, it could mean these are ancient buildings. These have scaffolding on the buildings for some reason that just went up within the last month. Things like that. Right? Things that really can't just be easily explained by innocuous, you know, building activity, by somebody just wanting to move in. Things that kind of begin to make you feel a little bit unsettled sometimes if you really look, you know, deeply into the history, okay, of some of these buildings. And so, like I say, I do not know at this stage, folks, what this means. However, what I do know that it means, at least initially, is Nicola Bulley definitely, most likely, okay, did not trip and fall into the river. You know, and there's someone who lives in this area who I've started doing some kind of deep investigative work on. And really it's all circumstantial so far, of course. But it feels strange, you know, it feels very unsettling that this kind of scaffolding work will be done on buildings right here next to the caravan park, but you won't see this anywhere else. And these are buildings that weren't just put up last month or in the last 5 months. These are buildings that have been here for well over 100 years in certain cases. And so I find it just a tad unusual, as people really most likely should. And it may really have nothing to do with the River Wyre. However, it could most certainly, with some of the things I've encountered in this area, it could certainly have a lot to do with the River Wyre as well. And what I wonder, because it was only just recent when I started truly investigating this, what I wonder, folks, is what type of people, right? What type of people did Nicola Bulley run into? You know, what kind of people would she run into near the caravan park? You know, obviously she had to have known about the caravan park. Okay, I'm not going to rule out anymore that Nicola never knew about the caravan park because of some pieces of evidence here that certainly do not make any sense at all if Nicola truly didn't know about the caravan park. Okay, the caravan park has all of these interesting displays right directly next to the River Wyre. There are some people who allegedly live directly on this park that are they're not the typical people you expect to see, right? And certainly not people that you would normally encounter. I guess you could finally certainly say that, right? There's a lot of questions as to this park, and it's like it's very secluded. So that's kind of a red flag for me in a way, because if it's just a normal caravan park, why is there any reason at all to hide it, right? Why is it directly next to the River Wyre in kind of a secluded area if all it is just a run-of-the-mill caravan park? So these are questions that I would like an answer to, folks. These are serious issues, and some of them are very circumstantial, that deserve to be truly addressed. They absolutely deserve to be truly answered. And the problem is, the way that I see it right now, we don't have enough information to truly address these questions yet. And this is the first time I've fully taken a tour of the caravan park by the River Wyre. And what I've encountered here, okay, folks, with scaffolding around certain sheds and certain areas are things that are not normal. I do not know what to make of them. I do not know if I can say that they have anything to do with Nicola or not. What I can confirm based upon evidence and a lot of things that I've seen just thus far is they're problematic. They are problematic, most certainly. And they definitely have something to do with the history of the River Wyre, okay? And that's what kind of matters to me at the earliest stage. When I looked at the fact that there's no alcoholic beverages, there's no bottles, there needs to be at least one bottle perhaps or something with Nicola's fingerprints on them. When I looked at that fact and I confirmed there's nothing to suggest she was even holding an alcoholic beverage that day. That's one of the first concerning pieces of evidence, right, that got me to start realizing there may have been other things at play here, possibly following Nicola Bulley. Could that perhaps be an explanation that hasn't been explored yet? This is a piece of evidence, circumstantial so far, that I have been deeply exploring. They confirm Glen Academy dates back to 1930 and was basically established by John Tootin, the founder of Tootin and Associates Architecture. A picture is worth more than 1,000 words for architects working on renovations at a local high school near Brunswick, United Kingdom. This is outside of Lancashire. And what was interesting also, that may be covered later, is Mr. John Tootin, or the John Tootin involved in this issue, lives apparently right now in the Lancashire area. John Tootin, founder of John A. Tootin and Associates Architecture, is working with the Glen County school system to complete renovations and restorations of Glen Academy of Brunswick. Before he puts pencil to paper, he wishes to make sure his firm is always as informed as possible with regards to the designs for the structure. So kind of an interesting fact, isn't it? Someone was building a interesting set of buildings here. And John Tootin, who is, in fact, yes, a family, a close family member to Nathan Tootin of South Carolina. Okay, John Tootin happened to be involved in that building project right here in Brunswick, United Kingdom. Now, as I spoke before, this is circumstantial right now, but there has been a lot that I have explored about some of these specific areas in relation to, the River Wyre caravan park, and that may be explored. So again, folks, this is just a short video update showing kind of what is believed to have occurred in the Nicola Bulley situation and case. And some have wondered what my official stance would be based upon certain legal records and things that I've looked into concerning her name and other issues. All I'm going to say when it comes to that right now is I really do not know in truth what happened to Nicola, okay? However, I'm nearly at the point where I feel like it can be ruled out that she just simply tripped and fell into the river. I can say that. It isn't supported by the evidence that's been recovered that all that occurred at the park is she tripped and fell into the river. So the safe way to proceed with that is just to simply say, I do not know. And I would perchance to guess that a lot of the public does not know what happened to Nicola Bulley, in truth. However, I strongly feel at this point it can almost be ruled out that all that happened was she went to the river, she tripped, and she fell. This is based upon evidence that's been recovered thus far. Thank you. And of course, there's going to be some, towards the end of this video, they're going to wonder, well, it seems still pretty preposterous that someone could have possibly murdered Nicola. I'm just going to say to that, again, what seems more preposterous to me, based upon the weight of the evidence that's now been uncovered, is the idea that she just tripped and fell into the river, right? Because there's no forensics of fingerprints on the actual bottle or maybe beer cans, in the area. There's no forensics on actual cell phone data that shows that she was making phone calls even on the same day, which is not really explained, with any of these figures. So it's like you have to start to go with one or the other. And what I'm pointing out is, folks, it's more preposterous to believe that it was just an accident. So I'll just say to that, I don't know exactly what happened to her. But based upon some of the things that have been collected now, I'm certainly leaning more towards the direction now of it being more than an accident. And someone possibly done this deliberately. Although it certainly cannot be ruled out entirely that it was maybe a different kind of accident. But from what I've uncovered and what's been seen with where the cell phone was found and different things that happened with the phone numbers that were called on that list, I would find it a lot more likely that it is somebody else. Also, of course, it didn't mention it in the first report, but key evidence came in the second and third reports that came out later that the cell phone was actually connected to a work conference call at the time. And they had to confirm and verify that, yeah, it was connected to a work conference call. Imagine that. Also, the exact area where the body was recovered is nowhere near the place that is speculated that apparently the victim, in this case, Nicola, would have tripped and fell in. So that's one more key piece of evidence that has me heavily leaning against the idea that any of this has to do with Nicola. She just tripped and fell into the river. That can almost be ruled out. Thank you.